Happy 4th of July, everyone. Hoping to finish this podcast before the bomb starts fucking going off. Like, that's how it sounds like. The fireworks. So, is mathematics a religion? Obviously. There. Just like that. I'm gonna do it dirty just like that. Why? What is religion? Religion comes from the Latin word religare, right? To which means something like to bind, to yoke, which is similar to yoga, union. Cantor believed in real math, like Cantor believed in like concept of omega almost, which almost like had a zeal, sort of theological zeal towards mathematics, as the mathematics is almost theological, that is divine. It's like God sent revelation, and where omega represents almost God's mind or mind of God. And there talks about, and that's if you go towards the set theory, I'm talking about the omega with the bold symbol or the W. He had sort of that kind of zealous epiphanes belief towards mathematics, but I'm not going to talk about that. Neither I'm going to talk about the fact that how similar mathematics is similar to religion, like just like Jesus said, God made man in the image of God. It's interesting, the parallels. If you take a number line zero, everything is comes from nullity, null hypothesis, or empty set theory, like empty sets. So out of nothingness, an entire number system can be created, and all numbers has the proper natural numbers have the property of the original number. Original, if you start the original number as zero, which is nothingness. It's funny, so I'm not going to talk about the parallels like that, but it's interesting how God created the image of. As you can see the parallels, everything finger pointing to the moon. It's almost each number, the set theory, the essence, the quality retains of the previous number's quality. It's funny, in mathematics we talk about imaginary numbers, I, imaginary numbers, negative numbers, aleph null, abstract notions, but that's exactly what religious people do. Like they think of, or like some people who believes in unicorn, or even Sherlock Holmes. Like, see, people look at it as existential qualifiers, universal qualifiers, all this. Most college noobs, who just enters called the freshmen, or like anyone who's the uninitiated. They look at all these exotic Latin symbols and foreign like all this inscrutable symbols, and they think it is, since it's so impregnable, it must be like there must be some higher truth to it, and then they study, and obviously, and you can study as long as you want, but it's not like as if you go to some library in UCI or Harvard or MIT or even Library of Congress, there's some shelves out there, and in some symbolic logic the truth is set in stone. But that's how mathematicians act, logicians act. It's publish or perish. It's like once something's published, it's almost taken as on a faith basis. That's what I'm going to talk about. Mathematics is more faith than reason. Many axioms are based. What are axioms? Self-evident truth? Are they? How can they be self-evident? X equals X. That's not self-evident. There is no X equals X outside in the reality, in the outside, in the nature out there. But you'll say it's a property, it's a law of identity. X equals X. Well, what about the Christians then? Or it's like Bible is true because Bible is true because it says so. That's a law of identity. That's circular, tautological. That's another thing. People think that what about Rubik's cube, Zeeshan? Rubik's cube, you can only solve it in follow certain algorithm, or God's algorithm under 17 moves or something. But that's the thing. Mathematical proofs are sometimes constructive. It's like algorithmic. It's like a recipe, like cooking, or like going to the GPS, like direction. You want to go to your nearest fast food restaurant, like Jack in the Box, which, by the way, not sponsoring. But hey, if you want to, feel free to contact me for business inquiries. My Gmail is there. Please do sponsor us. So this it's like so that I can say our mathematical philosophy podcast is brought to you by fucking Jack in the Box. No, it's like, yeah, if you want to go to your nearest Jack in the Box, you follow some directions, algorithm basically. Or if you want to cook something, it's a recipe, or witchcraft, you want to follow some divination pattern, it's a ritual. So there's a sequence of steps. So that doesn't mean that itself is some kind of proof. It's like, what if you row a boat and if you cross the river, you're going to go somewhere. That's not a proof of anything. Just because something follows in a sequence, but you say, but if you cannot arrive at that answer with a different sequence, yeah, but that itself is tautological. The reason why, if you follow certain sequence and you steps, and you can solve Rubik's, quote unquote, solve Rubik's cube, is because that's precise the nature of it. It's like if you twist a paper in a certain way and you can crumple it, that's not a that has nothing to do with logical proof. Or like if I say every time there is a Every time there is a fire, there is no smoke. Or sorry, every time there is a gun, there is a fire, but there is no smoke. Like you cut out the intermediary step. Every time that happens, doesn't necessarily make it a logical fact. If or like suppose here's a better example. Suppose I think of a person, and every time my phone rings, and it happens almost all the time, that doesn't necessarily make it a logical fact just because something the connection, David Hume talk about connection, billiard ball A hits a ball B, that doesn't mean there's some sort of like a causes B, or there's some logical connection between them, or like particles. So Bible people, law of identity, Bible X equals X, and we start off with identities like these, bijection, law of inverse, all these things, and the way people go on acting as if logicians and mathematicians, as if just because it has been published, would start from there, that's the starting point. No, it's because that's the whole critique of peer review. So a bunch of hacks got together and decided that's going to be how it is, and that's fine. But it's no different from some artist, Picasso, drawing something, or Leger, Fernand Leger drawing something. It's subjective, it's creative, yeah. And if it's, but most people conflict this artistic expression, this creative, with as if logical fact. We talk about pure mathematics as if pure, it's like purity. But even though some mathematical stuffs have pure implications, or like philosophical implications, or my favorite is axiom of symmetry, and I mean the Frelings, like some axiom has to do axiom of indeterminacy or something like that. That has to do with darts, throwing darts. And that's another thing. When you throw a dart, just because there exists some trajectory, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that the action of hitting the bullseye is the way the bullseye will be hit. It's ipso facto. It's like it's tautological, circular. Or Quiney, snow is white because snow is white. Or the reason snow is white, it's like quotation mark. It's like snow is white precisely. Is or when Tarski talks about it, it's like the reason snow is white is because the sentence "the snow is white" is true. So the reason true is almost, it is very tautological. I don't have Tarski as or Quiney as a snow is white example in front of me, but let's move ahead. So one of the one of the debate hot topic is mathematics discovered or invented, and it's both. It's both. It's discovered and invented both at the same time. And when we talk about proof, what do we actually mean by proof? This is very constructive, algorithmic. Is that a proof? Hilbert's Einstein-Dungs problem or something like that, which basically has to do with Hilbert's program. Like, are there algorithms of algorithms? Like infinite algorithms exist. There is an algorithm to determine all algorithms, and this you can veer off to P and P. See, when people, if suppose some, like some high profile mathematician solves P and P, it's like they'll start off with some already it's assumptions, like, okay, since this has been proven, we're going to start from there, as if that's a logical fact. That doesn't, just because something is peer reviewed and published in journal, but peer reviewed by each hacks who see, it's like it doesn't make it right. See, there are 7 billion or 8 billion, I don't know what's the population right now. I think 10 billion will be like, that's when the shit is gonna hit the fan. But I think whatever population we have, each of us human being, we have our own set of axioms, quote unquote, so to speak. It's like we have our own way of view, epistemological viewpoint of looking at things. So it's like, and when something we have to, when there has to be mutual agreement or like overlap, then the Venn diagram, that's when we are attracted to those kind of people, and then that's how the group becomes. That's why, because the Vienna Circle, Carnap, or like on continental analytical philosophy, because those like-minded people are attracted to each other, and that's how theories form, or like some popular theories always rise to the top. Just like impressionism, just like mathematics, if some theories are not popular, it's gonna get squashed. Like Teilhard de Chardin, or omega point theory, or like Rupert Sheldrake morphic resonance, or anyone, or Dean Radin's work. These people not if the majority of those uptight anal retentive hacks, if they don't approve it because of their out of fear of being a pariah or losing their tenure or being ending up like John Forbes Nash, they want to maintain their image, keep up with the Jones of, so to speak, of their colleagues and peers, and maintain social respectability and like status. And because of that, out of fear, they don't even express themselves. It's mostly like rehashing other people's ideas. And even look at the even people doing PhD dissertation, like thesis advisor. It's almost like a master student relationship. It's like, and sometimes there could be like a doctoral advisor have, or the student could have, or person doing the PhD student could have a different view, and like Claney, Church, Alonzo Church, Rosser, there's almost sort of lineage, almost just like Buddhism. There's a lineage, but that's a stretch. But what I'm saying is, it's almost like if you curry up to some professor, and if they tend to like your, they'll oversee your dissertation. It's almost like, yeah, it dovetails with your view, and it could go against them, and this could be one of the most beautiful dynamic relationship where you don't like the, like I heard, like when Russell looked at Wittgenstein, they had just had a chat, and they said, "Oh, this is one of the brilliant minds," and that automatically he sort of got his PhD or dissertation. It could be a urban legend or fact, but that's how it used to be back in the days. So how impressed you are with, and it's like peer reviewed. So just because something is peer reviewed, like what about Shankskin or Buddhist lineage or Vedantic lineage, if those are accepted by published, and they're accepted by their fraternity, it doesn't make it the truth. Although the beauty of logic, then you can also say that philosophy is also religion. Yeah, in one sense, yeah. It's like I have my own philosophy. He has his own philosophy. There are 7 billion, 8 billion people of us. We have our each philosophy. But I guess the strength is because the I guess the freedom is we can talk about paraconsistent logic, relevant logic by Graham Priest. And again, I don't wanna contort his ideas, and that's the thing. That's how mathematics we have come to. It's like we are so afraid of even speaking these words. Paraconsistency logic. It's irrelevant. It's almost all I's must be dotted and T's must be crossed, or you tarnish reputation. It's like I don't want to put my words into their mouth. It's like, what if you say the wrong thing, or like if you apply Gödel's or a higher theorem to other reality? That's sort of faux pas. Like it's people that are creating. It's like we live in a fear out of it. So an intellectual, like police will come and like sort of take you away, and a Kafka is crying, and that's another thing. Like we have Gödel's incompetence theorem, Turing computability or theorem or something like that, charge Turing theses. We have Heisenberg, like all these sort of finger pointing to the moon that any system formally decidable, formal system, there are some things that can be never be decidable. So why can I not extrapolate to the reality? It's almost like what's the point? What's the point of doing philosophy or anything, philosophy of mathematics or anything? Is if you can extrapolate one idea to another. It's like you say, oh, yeah, only A causes B and B causes C, and then if you're like, okay, and if you apply it in real world, the hypothetical syllogism is like, no, we're not supposed to. It's only in the strict, pure. That's why Rory Sutherland is so brilliant. He challenged this notion of creativity, and it's like economics is not some rational agent making rational decisions, the abstract rational. That's not how business works. Whether it be zero sum theory, game theory, or whatever. And here's another thing. How the only way you can prove something if you step out of the system. It's like if you're in a VR, if right now we're wearing a VR helmet, how do you even know? And we assume this, like, the life we experience, the experiential life, the reality, that's to be the truth. But after we die, we get out of, literally, we take the VR helmet off of the matrix, we come out of the matrix, we find that, well, we were in a state of nothingness, in a plane of astral plane. That could be truth. Who knows? If the third eye awakens, the system is closed, and just like that, Bible can also be a closed system, and that can be self-contained. And so Bible is true because it is true, it says so. So there is a closed system, but doesn't mean it's like chess. It's a closed system. But imagine the Diane Lane movie or something, White Knight or something Knight, where this villain, this psycho was doing the killing and based on chess. It's like almost you have to figure it out, like play the chess and like figure out what if what if we said life corresponds to these chess symbols or the chess notation, and if you do this, life will happen. Like you could make one-to-one correspondence with certain chess sequence. That's how life unfolds. So, and then you say, okay, you're not allowed to do this mother-made or stalemate because then it'll be violation of those kind of symbolic manipulation. That's absurd. That's not how life works. So similarly, that's not how life works. It's not like when you break down things mathematically, logical bones to the bones, to nitty gritty details, to the noggins, to the marrow of it, and the gooey stuff comes out. It's not like what binds together is literally nullity or nothingness or paradoxes or contradictions. Everything ends in explosion. There's infinite regress. There's recursion. There you have a vicious cycle. And all these have been spouted by Sextus Empiricus and the people like those, or Real Pillar, or in Taoism, the Tao that can be talked about that is not the real Tao, or Zen Buddhism. All this pointing to the moon, finger pointing to the moon. Also, how complete is the mathematics right now? Euclidean wasn't complete till long Euclidean geometry came. Spinoza also had their axiomatic thing, and Spinoza's substance theory, that's also axiomatic and it's self-contained, but no one takes him seriously. It's bullshit. So just because I can write paper and write one that okay, number one the A, and number two B, and then number three A points to B, and number four B points to A. So I've just created my own system which is circular, and you can probably some law of identity will happen, or law of inverse, and you can create things. But I'm literally creating like a very abstract artificial system. But most people think it's the truth. It's like set in stone, or once something is published in paper, it's set in stone, it's engraved, something is accepted. And that's the most egregious, violent, yeah, almost violent, vicious thing you can do in your profession, quote unquote, or so to speak, or in your intellectual endeavor, is to think just because something is accepted or written down by a majority, 99%, even 9% of the mathematicians, doesn't make it some kind of word of God or something, gospel. And actually, when I took those variable calculus, I think it was calculus 3, those yeah, multivariable calculus, I just took it for like a week or something, 3 days, and before I dropped out. Like the professor was saying, nothing is even gospel. And a lot of people know that. There are a lot of many layers to it. Like, just because something's self-evident, and you can create a system out of a self-evident, self-sustained, self-containing system, that doesn't make it taut, airtight. That's why Nagarjuna, people like that, Mahavira, those were so ahead of their times when they talk about tetralemma. This is true, this is not true, this is true and not true, this is true and not true, and then you come up neti neti, and or like omega inconsistency, which is similar to Gödel, or and don't quote me on omega consistency. I should look this up. It's like this statement is true, this statement is false, this statement is true and false, and then omega consistency could be like omega consistent, omega inconsistent, omega consistency is omega consistent, and omega inconsistency. So it's almost like makes room for paradox or contradiction almost. So yeah, as I was saying, the way you people say, oh, but at least it allows things like paraconsistent logic, relevant to talk about multivariate logic or all these things, and that's fine. That's what should be. That's what education should be. That's enlightenment. I mean, advancement of civilization and education, being luminary should be. But at the same time, you realize it's just like someone painting a piece of painting. It could be anything. If life unfolded in a different way, we would have a different mathematical system. Imagine an infinite-sided die, and you throw that die, and some number appears, and that number has correspondence to an event. That number encodes the sequence of event. Like when you compute that number, that it's like Library of Babel. Like everything can be like, it's like all. See, as I was saying, when people set out to prove something, like they started with accepted definitions, accepted theories, as theorem, as if like that is like, or axiom, and they start from there. But if they were real skeptics, like Pyrrhonists, like skeptical of their own skeptics, they would start with a blank slate and say, "I can know nothing for sure." Like almost Descartes had that mindset. It's like I can know nothing for sure. So let's start there, blank slate. Or you can like infinite possibilities exist, infinite systems of infinite systems exist. Like probabilities wise. Who knows? Maybe that is truth, but people don't start from that assumption basically. Yeah, Library of Babel. So it's almost like, I'm sure you Jose Luis Borges. It's almost like everything, all books that can be thought of. It's like almost all thought that can be thought of, all conscious, all infinite parallel universe that can thought of. Imagine that can only that has a binary, that can be, created from binary symbol, just like Library of Babel in the staircase, where with a dash and a dot. But then another problem with mathematics is the continuity versus discrete problem. I don't even know what continuum hypothesis is. Not, I don't know what that is. I know Coin deal with forcing. There's forcing lemma, but yeah. So discrete and continuity mathematics takes something. It's like water and it breaks it up. It's like sound wave. They break it up. It's like they take something continuous fluid and mathematics chops it down into, or like logicians or analytical philosophers or materialists, they chop it down. But it's like when you break, when you how when you start when you keep chopping it down and down. It's not, you don't arrive at some particle or something. It's almost like fluid. It's like quantum foam, or like what is the substance of that? Like it's like mathematics concept. It's almost like reality is made up of concepts in consciousness, information theory, and like infon and abstract notions. But you said isn't what mathematics talks about. Like if, but how do you even know anything for sure? So my whole point of this was to raise the question mark, and many people see, those who believe no explanation necessary. Joseph Dunning just said, the magician. But no, those who don't, nothing, no explanation will suffice. People who talk, they took the red pill, fucking took the bong rip. They already know this. It's like the back of their hand. Like, yeah, obviously mathematics is religion. But people, it's like the question you always wanted to ask, but you're afraid to do so. Why not start with paradoxes then? The first assumption, catch 22, and bootstrap out of there. It's like chaos and Zeus, Chronos, they're coming from that, from chaos, paradox. Like, what is, I thought of once, like when I was stoned back in the days, like concept, think of something called concept existence, conception existence, conception dash existence. From that, it arises everything. It's almost similar to Heidegger's philosophy, but I'm not too familiar with Heidegger philosophy. But it's like Ouroboros, the snake eating itself. We start off with self-reference paradox. If you start off that, like, yeah, this statement is true because this statement is true. If you start off with a, or like this, or one yes equals no, or true equals false. If you start off with a paradox and build an entire system out of it, and if it models and mimics real life, then probably that's how reality works. If you break it down, so you just, why not just bootstrap from that? But could you even make a solid structure from paradox? And what about hypergame paradox, or hypergame, or like Orenfurt Phrase game, or two-player games? It's like who can name the biggest number. But anyways, I'm getting sidetracked here. No, even think of Gödel. Gödel's proof. I don't know the technical of his proof. The on the formally undecidable proposition, his thesis paper, but which is like what, 20 or 35 pages or something. And he used something called bitwise operator, something like that. I don't know, BEW, Gödel numbering. But he uses number, which is a concept, to prove the mathematical concept. He uses concept to prove something concept. Even Gödel one challenges him, or like Turing, like it's almost like it's tautological. Entire mathematics is tautological. Logic is tautological. Science is tautological. Everything, reality is tautological. The only way you can experience reality is by experiencing reality itself. It's like Heraclitus. You cannot step on the same river twice. It's like horse, playing the basketball game horse. It's like you cannot play a horse, because in order to, if when Fatone, and I'm not talking about Joey Fatone from the Insane. I don't know, someone, just take some weirdo, random weirdo. When he makes his, Joey Fatone makes his dunk, Kobe like right side, left side fake, and then dunks it. And I'm not, yeah, as you can know, I don't know that, I'm not familiar with the parlance and the vernacular and slangs of jargons of basketball. It's like, it's like, but you get my point. It's like whenever he makes elaborate move and dunks it, you can't copy it, because in order to copy that you have to be Joey Fatone, make and be at the space-time position and be at that, and but you can never step in the same river twice. So similarly, reality is someone who built Indra's tower. Indra built the Simla's tower. It's like reality is like this behemoth. It's like Brahman. It's like it has reality. It has its own head, Godhead. It's almost this self-aware. The entire thing is like entity itself. It's like a whole parts. You cannot, or like you take a machinery, like a supercomputer mainframe, or like industrial back in the days, industrial basic industry with giant robots with arms, or like our own body. It's like we have the machinery. You cannot say like the head causes the feet to move, or like it's the whole thing. It's like, it's not like, think of your own body. It's not like you start off a cell, single cell, and then it forms the whole body. No, that's not how it works. It's almost like it start off embryo, and then, and a circular fractal is almost cell spiral, and it evolves, sort of. And just like shells, mollusks, or the shells, cephalopods, like shells, like they, it's almost like tree were cephalopods. They would leave their birthmark, like the, it's like, imagine human being evolved like cephalopods, the shells. Like as we grew, the head would be, there'll be head in the bottom, then the head in the stomach, like the cray from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there'll be head, and there'll be another head. It's almost like it leaves a shadow of how we were growing. But that's not how reality works. Like, so what I'm saying is, you cannot break down a human and say, okay, oh, the cell A causes cell B. It's like this whole system. And similarly, you extrapolate that to the whole thing. It's like this big old gunk, this behemoth, this clunk of matter is with life. Like, look in front of me on the desk, there's this cable, there's speaker, there's this. I'm moving my hand, I'm making this. You cannot say, oh, where do we start? A, B, C sequence, and but when you do mathematics, philosophy, or intellectual, or any exercises, so-called exercises left for the reader, when you do this, there's no sequence. You do it sequentially, but there's no sequence out there in real life. Or maybe it is. Like if you talk about Big Bang, there's a sequence, but it's almost like it doesn't happen linearly. It happens. It almost sort of unfolds, and probably that's what Alan Watts was trying to convey. I guess the reality, we don't, we we don't grow out of it, or like something like that. It's almost like we're not grow into. I don't know what he was trying to say. Never mind. But yeah, it's like concept. Gödel uses a concept to prove concept, and numbers, they themselves are concepts. So how do you prove the existence of number? You use a concept to define a concept. So as I was saying, if you start off with existence, sorry, conception dash existence. Conception implies existence. Existence implies concept. From there, you can talk, think of reason, faith, continuum. And again, this is just demonstration procedures. These are not proof though. And just because recipe algorithm constructive proof, which is Euclid's proof of the infinity of prime numbers, it was actually constructive in nature, which is almost algorithmic. But something is algorithmic. Just because you follow certain steps and you get the same results all the time doesn't make it a proof. It just means that it's like, in order to paint a car red, you need redness. So redness is a property of red, or the red car. The primeness is a property of a prime number. Numberness is property of number. Is, but it's all one thing. So it's is. You cannot say God is, or like you cannot say God is being. Okay, and then you drop the some mimetically you drop certain syllables, or like certain concepts, and you can say, okay, God is, or you can, and then you finally say is, or like Atman, or like one word Om, or like, the point being, the whole point when Zen people do all these are not trivial sort of like footsies or like, I mean, these are have real implication, real life, because they're limitations of language, limitations of philosophy, limitations of logic, limitations of mathematics. Because of that, it's like you can almost make any statement. That's why the sage would say the Tao that can be talked about is not the real Tao, or Mu, or it may look very pristine and like very polished and trimmed and proper, with clean, but it's once you get down to the nitty gritty, it's very it's like gruesome and cannibalistic. It's like all this marrow, this gooey gushy stuff that comes out, like logic, like A implies B, A therefore B. Oh, it looks very logical, proper, like clean and polished. What do you even mean by A implies B? What do you mean by A? And why do we have to say A? Why can't I say A implies B, Z, therefore A implies B? So I just created my own rule, and you can start an entire philosophy based on that rule. Like modus ponens, modus tollens, modus tollendo, or like hypothetical syllogism or Aristotelical logic. It's not. These are not. And I know where Aristotelian logic has been overthrown, or like there's Lukavich. I need to know his name, the Polish name, Lukavich, like the multivariate logic, fuzzy logic, all these. Yeah, it's almost like you'll say opponents will say that yeah, it makes room for this kind of to allow this kind of entertain this kind of theories. So that's what and fine, but if you admit that it's just like it allows for intellectual free expression, that's fine. It's just like painting, and you can paint whatever you want. That's fine. I would agree. But most people, the way religion works, they have the rigid. It's like you go to a school and universe. There's some professor will come and start with textbook, and as if that's the starting point. Obviously, probably Raymond Smullyan would know. Even Raymond Smullyan, when he talks about his puzzle, and he was say his age basically, like as if you know the Sherazada and the tiger or the door. You have two doors. These are very abstract. Even the trolley problem. These are very abstract, hypothetical problems which probably only exist in realm of ink and paper and theories. But you can say that's what we are doing. Is it's and yeah, I'll tag along with you that yeah, that's what you're doing. Is just basically making up thought experiments. Like it's imagination. It's fairy tale. This will you're creating your own theories or your cosmology, your own. But people, the way average lay people operate, and Leo Gura would gets it, and that's why he's slowly becoming one of my favorite philosophers. As I follow him more and more, I think he's one of the most brilliant minds to be alive right now. Even though there's always a lot of things I disagree and dislike about his the way he carried himself, like his whole 30-day 5 MEO, and like that's just too much. Why would you want to do it? It's like what the hell? Like there is no such thing as total awakening. Just live a little and just carry on your teaching. Like, but that's just my criticism. But I think he's one of the most brilliant minds alive right now. Even Teal Swan. Like even or like people like Gabriel Traveler, that's these people who collab with Teal Swan, like these people. Then nowadays you can just take your do your LSD or psychedelic and get your truth, but back in the day they didn't have that kind of privilege. I never did all these things, but you don't even need to do these things. All you need is a curiosity and a consciousness, like a baby. All you have to do is ask why. But if you go and do that, people will be like, shut up, just go and listen. I'm the lecturer here. Even though they're explicitly said, it's like law of inverse or law of idempotence, law of identity or law of reflection, law of reflection. Why are these laws? Who came up with it? Just because someone like, where's the proof? These are like, what makes some proof a proof? I can some Aboriginal tribe like they can write down some inscrutable scrawling on the wall and they say, okay, this is proof that this is the meaning of life. God exists. Or this is the secret mantra, affirmation, or sequence, a magic ritual to the secret. That could be a proof. Anything can be proof. Anything can be God. Anything can be mathematics. Anything can be religion. And I know may sound very wishy washy thing, but once you get to the core and the heart of the matter, that's what, yeah, why do you call it principle explosion? Because almost it leads to absurdity. Anything follows from anything. So then you say, does it mean that nothing has meaning? Obviously, from certain aspects and extent to certain extent, yeah, nothing has meaning. Everything is nothing. Nothing is, it's all meaningless. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Everything are finger pointing to the moon, and that's how you like that's it's very demonstrative. Like the only way you can understand something live is with direct experience. Map is not the territory. So to sum up, TLDR, most of mathematics is made up of axioms which can be which you press long enough, which are very circular, which are filled with paradoxes, and which are very constructive, and which are very invented, and which are man-made, and which are culturally accepted, matter of taste, matter of the elite, or matter of the mass, or matter of if some a bunch of all the greatest mathematicians alive right now, if they were to get together in some symposium or like collegium or like what do you call those? Yeah, like fucking collegium, like what do you call those? Yeah, yeah, Poland or something, and they say, oh, okay, Riemann hypothesis. We're gonna start with an exam. That doesn't suddenly make it so. Even God, I'm talking about the heavyweights here, Hilbert, but people like the Barton Russell, like those people, there could be some exceptions, but most people, it's like Barton Russell's Principia Mathematica is just junk. It's like it's for and I mean, a lot of people who buys the book will admit it's for historical. It's an historical artifact. And all these people, symbolic manipulation, these are all junk. And some might have real life consequences, like Turing machine or something. Turing was the forerunner of computer. See, that then becomes different. Then when you apply mathematics, even pure mathematics or like pure logic, formal logic to like real life artificial intelligence, computers, robots, that becomes a different like a ball game. But you cannot point to some paper and say, okay, this is the proof that this is truth right here. No, and many people don't get that. Lay people, or if you're like, if you're too afraid to question, and like, it's like if you question, like, or even why is why, what do you mean by why, or what is what are questions, what are words, what do you mean, what is the concept of question, what is the concept of, what is the meaning of the concept of proof, what is the meaning of concept of truth, what is the meaning of, so all these are not empty philosophizing. Because mathematics is good at hiding. Even Gauss would say, like, I don't know if it's Gauss or Picasso, like, they're hiding, covering their tracks, the scaffolding, and like, it falls away. It withers away. It becomes invisible. But and you see this cathedral, and you don't, you don't take a axe and take a swipe at the foundation. Once you do it, you realize it's like it's very empty. It's like meaningless, and it's junk. All the shelves in the Library of Congress, or UC Irvine or Harvard or whatever, is filled with literally papers and papers of junk. It's about, no, look at all the nuclear physics, like all the true, but to a certain extent, like, yes, modern, like Kaluza-Klein theory, like abstraction, like physics, or like, it's difficult to explain. Like, the best example is Barton Russell's paper, like those. I don't know, it's 3 volumes, or how many volumes? The 5 volumes, the Alfred North. Those are not. Those are like, these are, or even Socrates' like Plato's words and the works. Like, these are very primitive. Like, when you think about it, many of them is like they have so much laden with so much assumptions, and or Nietzsche's philosophy is like, or like, it's not like very clear cut, like sequential, like, logical progression, like, and then it can always be incomplete. Like, 10,000 years from now, we could be sound like simpleton than the truths that the ancient Greeks said. So it doesn't mean logic is relative to the culture that we live in. Is it cultural, or the time? It has to do with timeline. People and one of my critique was, oh, like, this like in Quran, like in Islam, it's like 1400 BC. In 1400 BC, they they had, it's like, what about people before 1400 BC? So it doesn't mean they'll all go to hell, because they didn't have revelation back then. So does it mean that people in 1400, 1300 BC, who there was no revelation, the people will go hell because Islam didn't exist almost all of a sudden? Does truth exist only in uh, in terms of like timeline? Like Plato would have no idea about Einstein's theories, or like Kaluza-Klein theory of black holes, infinite, probably infinite parallel universe, who knows, or Plato's allegory, who knows, probably he had an enlightenment epiphany. But still, complex stuffs, like, or like something like which no one gets it nowadays, even continuum hypothesis, things like that, he would have no idea whatsoever. And that's what probably Farmer's last theorem, as Andrew Weil said, they didn't have machinery back then. So does it mean, as it goes, mathematics evolves and it becomes dynamic? It's just the Constitution of the United States, it grows, it's in flux, and it's dynamic, and that's, many people don't get that. They don't understand that this basic fact. To me, it's like almost a fact. Like, how can it be? And the reason is because, and all you need is a guts, courage, and curiosity, consciousness of a baby to question why is something so. And that's when I took intro to philosophy in Orange Coast College. It's like, that's one of the most best were like instruction, like inculcated on me by Professor Holland, intro to philosophy or ethics or something. I don't know, remember what class I took. I think it was intro to philosophy, and he was saying always ask define something, and I knew it before even him, because yeah, everyone knows it almost, but people are afraid to work out, like work on, like, piggyback of that, like jump off the gangplank. It's like, what do you mean by define something? What do you mean by that? Why is that? People, all men by nature desire to know. Aristotle said that, but most people don't. Like, they're afraid to ask these questions. Why is this? Why is 1 plus 1 equals 2? Why not 1 plus 1 equals, why not 0 equals 1? Who gets to decide these things? Quia ipsos custodiet ipsos custodius. I don't know if I said that right, the Latin. Who guards the guards? Who judges the judge? And you don't even need to do psychedelics or like or even yoga or anything. You just thinking about it. It's like why are you afraid to think? Why are you afraid to challenge the status quo? Why are you afraid to challenge the tradition? It's like the Buddhist story, and I'll end it on that. Note, this has already become longer, and mathematics is also has to do with tradition, just like Buddhist tradition. Why these two, like when they're meditating, they used to sacrifice a cat, and then it turned out that a cat would make a noise, and I'm probably butchering it, no pun intended, or coloring it. It's like every time, probably they didn't sacrifice the cat, they were tying up. And it's like, why are you tying it up, the cat, every time you meditate or they go in a meditation hall? And it's because back in the days, like 2,000 years ago, the lineage, it followed the lineage they were back in those days, their patriarch, the Buddhists, like every time they meditate, the cat would make a noise, so they just tie him up. So I just made it a color and said, kill, like butcher the cat. But well, that does it. That ends it. Thank you for listening. Please comment below what you think of it, your criticism, how I can improve, how I can de-improve. What if I'm too ahead for you guys? Too avant-garde for your heads, for your simpleton, for your simple-minded. Okay.